A single mom hides her child and claims to be a virgin to marry a millionaire. But on their first day of marriage, the millionaire discovers the truth and everything that seemed perfect falls apart, turning love into an emotional battlefield. If this story got you hooked, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching from. Stay tuned. The morning sun filtered through the tattered blinds of Sophia Mitchell's small apartment in South Boston. At 32, her face still retained its youthful glow, though the faint lines around her eyes told stories of struggles and sleepless nights. Her small hands, rough from years of waitressing, absently stroked the head of her 6-year-old son Ethan, who sat at the rickety kitchen table finishing his cereal. "Mommy, will Miss Jenkins let me stay late at daycare again today?" Ethan's innocent question made Sophia's heart clench. Working double shifts at Harborview Diner meant her son spent more time with his caretakers than with her. "Just today and tomorrow, baby," she promised, pressing a kiss to his forehead. "Then Mommy gets a whole weekend off to spend with her. Favorite little man." Ethan's cheerful giggle eased the guilt that constantly gnawed at her. As she watched him get ready for school, she caught a glimpse of herself in the cracked hallway mirror. Despite everything, she maintained her appearance meticulously. Her auburn hair professionally colored at a beauty school where services were cheap. Her makeup applied with precision, even on the most exhausting mornings. Her looks were an investment, one she couldn't afford to neglect. "Remember what I told you, Ethan," she said as she helped him into his jacket. "Mommy's working so hard because someday we won't have to count pennies anymore," he finished, repeating the mantra she'd instilled in him since he could talk. "That's right, my smart boy." She smiled, though there was a shadow behind her eyes. "And that someday might be closer than you think." After dropping Ethan at school, Sophia hurried to Harborview Diner, a high-end establishment that catered to Boston's financial elite. For 3 years, she had worked tirelessly, building rapport with the wealthy clientele, listening to their stories, learning their preferences. She wasn't just a waitress. She was a confidant, a bright spot in their day, a woman whose warm smile made them feel special. "Table 9 requested you specifically," Marge, the hostess, informed her with a knowing look. "Mr. Harrison is back from New York." Sophia's heartbeat quickened. William Harrison was a regular, a 40-year-old financial magnate whose family owned one of the largest investment firms on the East Coast. Tall with salt-and-pepper hair and piercing blue eyes, he commanded attention whenever he entered a room. For months, Sophia had served him, engaging in brief but meaningful conversations, carefully revealing select pieces of herself while keeping others hidden. "Good morning, Mr. Harrison," she greeted, approaching his table with a genuine smile. "The usual black coffee and avocado toast." William looked up from his financial newspaper, his stern expression softening when he saw her. "Sophia, I was hoping you'd be here today." His voice carried the polished tones of old Boston money. "And yes, the usual would be perfect." As she turned to place his order, he added, "Actually, could you join me for a moment? I have a proposition that might interest you." Sophia glanced around the half-empty restaurant. The morning rush had subsided, and Marge gave her a subtle nod. With her heart racing, she slid into the seat across from him. "I've been watching you for some time," William began, his intense gaze studying her. "You're different from most people working here. You're ambitious, sharp. I can see it in how you interact with clients, how you carry yourself." She kept her expression neutral, though internally her mind was spinning with possibilities. "I appreciate the observation, Mr. Harrison." "William, please," he leaned forward. "My company is hosting a charity gala next weekend at the Harrison Estate in Beacon Hill. We need additional staff who understand discretion and elegance." He paused. "The pay is considerable, and the connections you could make would be invaluable." Sophia recognized the opportunity instantly. She had spent years positioning herself for a chance like this, a foot in the door to the world she desperately wanted to join. "I would be honored, William." "Excellent." His smile was reserved but pleased. "My assistant will contact you with details. Wear something appropriate." His eyes briefly assessed her simple black uniform. That evening, after tucking Ethan into bed, Sophia opened the small lockbox she kept hidden in her closet. Inside was nearly every spare dollar she had saved over the past 3 years, almost $19,000. Enough for a fresh start somewhere, but nowhere near enough for the life she envisioned for herself and her son. With trembling fingers, she counted out $800. Tomorrow, she would visit the high-end consignment shop in Back Bay and find a dress that would make her look like she belonged in William's world. It would deplete her emergency fund, but some opportunities were worth the risk. The following Saturday, Sophia stood before the mirror in her newly purchased midnight blue gown. The silk caressed her skin like a whisper of promise. With her hair swept up elegantly and the delicate diamond, studs she'd purchased years ago with her first significant tip, she barely recognized herself. For tonight, she wasn't Sophia Mitchell, the struggling single mother. She was simply Sophia, a woman ready to claim her place in a world that had thus far excluded her. "You look like a princess, Mommy," Ethan whispered from the doorway, his eyes wide with wonder. Sophia's heart tightened. She knelt down, careful not to wrinkle her dress. "Remember what I told you, Ethan, about our secret?" He nodded solemnly. "I know, Mommy. I'm staying with Mrs. Rodriguez tonight, and I don't tell anyone about our special plan." "That's my good boy." She embraced him, breathing in his innocent scent. "Someday soon we won't have to have secrets anymore. Mommy promises." The Harrison estate sprawled across 2 acres in Beacon Hill, its Georgian architecture a testament to old wealth and established power. As Sophia ascended the marble steps, she calmed her racing heart. She wasn't here as staff. William's assistant had called that morning with a change of plans. She was to attend as a guest, a last-minute addition to balance the tables after a cancellation. "Miss Mitchell," William greeted her at the entrance, his eyes widening appreciatively as he took in her appearance. "You look exquisite." "Thank you for the invitation," she replied, accepting the flute of champagne he offered. "Though I'm a bit confused about the change of plans." William guided her into the grand ballroom, where Boston's elite mingled under crystal chandeliers. "Let's just say I had a hunch you'd make a better guest than server." His hand rested lightly on the small of her back. "Besides, I've been hoping for an opportunity to know you better, outside the constraints of the diner." Throughout the evening, Sophia navigated the social currents with natural grace. Years of serving wealthy clients had taught her how to engage in their conversations, how to laugh at the right moments, how to seem interested in discussions about stock portfolios and summer homes in the Hamptons. William remained close, introducing her as a friend with a warmth that drew curious glances from his social circle. "You're quite the mystery, Miss Mitchell," he commented as they shared a dance. "You speak like someone educated at Radcliffe, yet you work at a diner." Sophia's practiced smile never faltered. "Life takes unexpected turns, William. I believe it's how we adapt to those turns that defines us." His grip on her waist tightened slightly. "And how have you adapted?" "By recognizing opportunities when they present themselves," she replied, meeting his gaze with quiet confidence. Later, as the evening wound down, William invited her to see the gardens. Under the silvery moonlight, surrounded by the heady scent of roses, he turned to her. "I've never met anyone quite like you, Sophia." His voice was soft, intimate. "There's a depth to you that's rare in my world. Most people here, they're born into privilege. They've never had to fight for anything." "And you think I have?" she asked carefully. "I know you have." He stepped closer. "Tell me your story, Sophia. The real one." For a moment, she hesitated. The cool night air carried the distant sounds of laughter from the ballroom. Somewhere across town, her son slept in a neighbor's apartment. The life she wanted, needed for both of them seemed suddenly within reach. "My story," she began, constructing the narrative she had perfected over countless sleepless nights, "is simple. I was raised by very traditional parents in a small town outside of Portland. My father was a minister, my mother a homemaker. They had exacting standards." She looked away, allowing vulnerability to show. "When they learned I wanted to pursue finance instead of the teaching career they had chosen for me, they cut me off completely." William's expression softened with sympathy. "That must have been difficult." "It was," she admitted, infusing truth into the fabrication. I had to leave college in my final year. Since then, I've been working to save enough to finish my degree. She met his eyes. I've never told anyone at the diner about this. It's humiliating, in a way. There's no shame in fighting for a better life, William said, taking her hand. His touch was warm, certain. Everyone deserves a second chance. As his lips met hers beneath the garden trellis, Sophia allowed herself to sink into the moment, to believe in the possibility of the future she was creating. In the background, the gala continued, unaware that on this perfect spring night, William Harrison, Boston's most eligible bachelor, was falling for a waitress with secrets neither his wealth nor his influence could protect him from. 4 weeks later, Sophia stood in William's penthouse overlooking Boston Harbor, watching the sunset paint the water in shades of amber and gold. The whirlwind romance had progressed. With startling speed, William had pursued her with the same focused determination that had built his financial empire. Dinners at exclusive restaurants, private concerts, weekend trips to his family's home in the Berkshires. "Penny, for your thoughts?" William's voice interrupted her reverie as he joined her at the floor-to-ceiling windows. He wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. "Just thinking how surreal this all feels," she replied honestly. "A month ago I was serving you coffee. Now I'm here." William chuckled, his breath warm against her neck. "The universe works in mysterious ways." He turned her to face him, his expression suddenly serious. "I've never felt this way about anyone, Sophia. There's something pure about you, untouched by the cynicism of my world." Guilt flashed through her like lightning, but she buried it beneath a radiant smile. "I feel the same way." They had yet to be intimate, a fact that seemed to both frustrate and intrigue William. Sophia had carefully constructed a narrative around her traditional upbringing, explaining that she had been raised to believe in intimacy only after marriage. In reality, she needed time to solidify her position in his life before risking the vulnerability that would expose her lies. "My mother called again today," William mentioned casually as they moved to the leather couch. "She's quite eager to meet you at the family dinner on Sunday." Sophia's anxiety spiked. The Harrison family was Boston aristocracy, old money with roots tracing back to the city's founding. While William had modernized their financial empire, his parents remained deeply traditional, their social circle exclusive and rigidly proper. "Are you sure they'll approve of me?" she asked, allowing her insecurity to show. William took her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "They'll adore you. My mother especially will appreciate your values," he smiled. "She's been after me for years to find someone unspoiled by modern vulgarity, as she puts it." That night, as William slept, Sophia slipped out to the balcony to make a phone call. "Everything's okay, Mrs. Rodriguez. He's sleeping well," she whispered, her eyes fixed on the distant lights of South Boston, where her son lay in another woman's care. "He's fine, Sophia," the elderly neighbor assured her, "but he keeps asking when you're coming home. It's been 3 days now." I know. Just a little longer." Sophia closed her eyes, fighting back tears. "This is all for him. Tell him Mommy will bring him a special surprise." When Sunday arrived, Sophia prepared meticulously for the Harrison family dinner. She chose a modest cream-colored dress that suggested refined taste without ostentation. Her makeup was subtle, her jewelry limited to pearl earrings William had given her the previous week. "Remember," William advised as their driver navigated the tree-lined streets of Beacon Hill, "my father values directness. Don't be intimidated by his questions." The Harrison family home was a stunning Greek Revival mansion with imposing columns and immaculate gardens. Inside, priceless artwork and antiques created an atmosphere of rarefied exclusivity. Sophia absorbed every detail, committing to memory this world she was determined to join. Catherine Harrison, a slender woman in her 60s with William's piercing blue eyes, greeted them in the foyer. "So this is the young woman who's captured my son's attention." Her smile was polite but assessing. "Welcome to our home, Sophia. Thank you for having me, Mrs. Harrison." Sophia lowered her eyes respectfully. Your home is beautiful. It's been in the Harrison family for 6 generations, Catherine replied. We value tradition and continuity. The evaluation continued. Through dinner, with subtle questions about Sophia's background, education, and family. She navigated the conversation with practiced ease, elaborating on her fictional past with consistent details she had rehearsed countless times. And your parents, do they still live in Oregon? Richard Harrison, William's father, inquired. Yes, though we're estranged, Sophia answered, allowing a hint of practiced sorrow to color her voice. Their religious convictions made it difficult for them to accept my choices. Catherine's expression softened slightly. Family rifts can be painful. Perhaps with time, that would be wonderful, Sophia replied, knowing such a reconciliation would never need to occur. As dinner concluded, Richard invited William to his study to discuss business, leaving Sophia alone with Catherine. The older woman led her to the conservatory where orchids bloomed in carefully regulated humidity. William tells me you have traditional values regarding intimacy, Catherine commented, her tone casual but her gaze sharp. Sophia maintained her composure. Yes, my parents instilled those beliefs in me from childhood. Despite our differences, that's one teaching I've honored. Something like approval flickered in Catherine's eyes. Refreshing. Most women who pursue William lack such principles. She paused, studying Sophia more intently. He's quite serious about you, you know, more serious than I've ever seen him. I care deeply for your son, Mrs. Harrison. Catherine, please. The older woman touched a delicate orchid bloom. The Harrison name carries significant responsibility. William needs a partner who understands that, someone who will enhance, not detract from, the family's standing. The implied assessment hung in the air between them. Sophia recognized the moment for what it was, a conditional acceptance, predicated on her continued adherence to the values she claimed to uphold. In the car ride home, William was uncharacteristically quiet, his fingers drumming against his knee. Your parents are wonderful, Sophia offered. Did I pass inspection? He laughed, though tension remained in his shoulders. With flying colors. My mother actually used the word suitable, which from her is high praise. He turned to face her. But I don't care about their approval, Sophia. I care about what I feel when I'm with you. The car pulled into the circular driveway of his penthouse building. Inside the elevator, William seemed to come to a decision. As the doors closed, he pulled her into a passionate kiss. I can't wait any longer, he whispered against her lips. I've made reservations at the Carlyle in New York next weekend, just us. No interruptions, no family dinners, no business calls. Sophia's heart hammered against her ribs. She had spent weeks carefully cultivating her image as the virtuous, traditional woman William and his family valued. Now she faced a critical juncture: continue the charade and risk losing his interest, or take the next step and risk exposure. William, I respect your values, Sophia, he interrupted, misinterpreting her hesitation. But I need you to know how serious I am about us, about our future. The elevator doors opened to his penthouse, and he led her inside. In the dimly lit living room, he dropped to one knee, producing a velvet box from his pocket. This is sudden, I know, he said, his voice steady with certainty. But when you know, you know. Sophia Mitchell, will you marry me? The ring inside the box was an antique cushion-cut diamond set in platinum, a family heirloom, he explained, that had belonged to his grandmother. Worth more than everything Sophia had ever owned combined. Time seemed to slow as she stared at the glittering symbol of everything she had worked toward. In this moment, the life she had always dreamed of, security, luxury, status, was literally within her grasp. All she had to do was say yes and continue the elaborate fiction she had constructed. Yes, she whispered, tears of genuine emotion filling her eyes. Yes, I'll marry you. As William slipped the ring onto her finger, she felt its weight, not just the physical heft of precious metal and stone, but the weight of expectations, of lies, of consequences still to come. Later that night, after William had fallen asleep, Sophia stepped into the bathroom and dialed Mrs. Rodriguez's number. With shaking hands, "Sophia, it's past midnight," the older woman answered groggily. "I need to see Ethan tomorrow," Sophia whispered urgently. "I'll pick him up from school. And I need you to help me find a new sitter, someone who lives farther from my apartment." "Someone? Who doesn't know our situation? What's happening, Sophia?" Concern sharpened the woman's voice. Sophia glanced at the ring glittering on her finger. "I'm getting married, Mrs. Rodriguez, but William can't know about Ethan, not yet." "Sophia," the woman cautioned, "secrets like this—" "I just need time," Sophia interrupted. "Once we're married, once I'm sure of my position, I'll tell him everything. He'll understand why I had to do it this way." Even as she spoke the words, doubt crept through her like poison. "I need to secure our future first." When she returned to bed, William pulled her close in his sleep, murmuring words of love against her hair. Sophia closed her eyes, trying to ignore the voice in her head, reminding her that the foundation of their relationship, of the life she was building, was constructed entirely of lies. Lies that, with her acceptance of his proposal, had just become significantly more dangerous. Across town in Mrs. Rodriguez's apartment, 6-year-old Ethan slept fitfully, clutching the framed photograph of himself and his mother, the only anchor to a reality that was rapidly shifting, beneath both their feet. The Harrison-Mitchell wedding dominated Boston's social calendar that spring. The ceremony, held in the historic Trinity Church in Copley Square, was attended by over 300 guests, politicians, financial magnates, and old money families whose connections spanned generations. Sophia, radiant in a custom Vera Wang gown, appeared the perfect bride, demure, elegant, and utterly devoted to the influential man who had chosen her. "You look like you stepped out of a fairy tale," whispered Natalie, a cousin of William's, who had become Sophia's sole confidant in the Harrison circle. Sophia's smile was genuine, if tinged with anxiety. "It doesn't feel real sometimes." "Well, believe it, Mrs. Harrison," Natalie squeezed her hand. "You pulled off the impossible. You made the most eligible bachelor in Boston fall head over heels." As the reception unfolded in the ballroom of the Fairmont Copley Plaza, Sophia performed her role flawlessly. She charmed William's business associates, danced with appropriate grace, and accepted congratulations with humble gratitude. To anyone watching, she appeared born to this world of wealth and privilege. Only in fleeting, unguarded moments did the mask slip, when her eyes darted to the entrance as though expecting an unwelcome visitor, or when her laughter faltered. At mention of family, William, besotted with his beautiful bride, noticed nothing amiss in her behavior. The honeymoon, 2 luxurious weeks split between the Amalfi Coast and the Greek islands, was a blur of sunlight, crystal waters, and increasingly intimate moments. In William's arms, Sophia sometimes forgot the precarious nature of her situation, allowing herself to believe in the possibility of genuine happiness. "What are you thinking?" William asked one evening as they watched the sunset from the terrace of their private villa in Santorini. "That I'm the luckiest woman alive," she replied, leaning into his embrace. He kissed her temple. "I'm the lucky one. I've found something rare in this cynical world, a woman of true integrity." The words twisted in her chest like a knife. Each declaration of her supposed virtue only heightened the inevitable fall that awaited her. Yet even as guilt gnawed at her, Sophia rationalized her deceptions. Once they'd been married long enough, once her position was secure, she would gradually reveal the truth about Ethan. William would be angry, yes, but surely his love would overcome his sense of betrayal. The alternative, losing everything she had fought for, was unthinkable. Upon their return to Boston, the newlyweds settled into William's penthouse, which now bore touches of Sophia's presence: fresh flowers in Waterford crystal vases, cashmere, throws draped over leather furniture, photographs of the couple displayed in silver frames. To an outside observer, they appeared the perfect pair, their happiness evident in every shared glance and casual touch. Reality, however, proved more complicated. While William immediately resumed his demanding work schedule, Sophia found herself adrift in her new role as a society wife. Her days were filled with charity committee meetings, lunches with other executives' wives, and consultations with interior designers for the country home William had purchased as a wedding gift. At night, she would wait until William was asleep before slipping away to make hurried calls to the new nanny she had hired, an older woman named Mrs. Winters, who lived in Cambridge, far from South Boston, and anyone who might connect her to Sophia's past life. "How is he today?" Sophia would whisper, hungry for details of her son's life that she was missing. "He's doing fine, Mrs. Harrison," the woman would reply, using Sophia's new name with a hint of disapproval. "But he keeps asking when he can come live with you in the castle you promised." "Soon," Sophia would assure them both. "Just a little longer." Weeks stretched into months. Sophia grew more adept at compartmentalizing her dual existence, scheduling discreet visits with Ethan during times when William was traveling for business. Yet with each passing day, the web of lies grew more tangled, more dangerous. On their 6-month anniversary, William surprised her with a private dinner on the rooftop garden of the penthouse. Under strings of twinkling lights, he presented her with a platinum eternity band. "For the most perfect 6 months of my life," he said, sliding the ring onto her finger alongside her wedding band. Later that night, as they lay in bed, William propped himself up on one elbow, studying her face with unusual intensity. "I've been thinking," he began, tracing her cheekbone with his finger. "It's time we started talking about the future, about family." Sophia's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" "Children." His eyes shone with anticipation. "My mother's been not so subtly hinting about grandchildren, and frankly, I agree with her. I want to see you holding our baby, Sophia." She forced a smile, though panic surged through her veins. "Shouldn't we enjoy being newlyweds a little longer?" "We'll have plenty of time for that," he kissed her softly. "But at my age, I don't want to wait too long to become a father." The irony of his words wasn't lost on her. He was already a father, to a child he didn't know existed. A child who was growing increasingly impatient with their separation. The following week, during a luncheon at Catherine Harrison's home, the topic resurfaced. The elder Mrs. Harrison had invited several prominent society matrons, along with their daughters-in-law, for what was ostensibly a charity planning meeting, but quickly devolved into pointed discussions about family planning. Margaret's daughter-in-law just announced they're expecting twins, Catherine remarked, her gaze sliding meaningfully to Sophia. Such a blessing when a marriage bears fruit quickly. The implied pressure was unmistakable. In this world, producing heirs wasn't just a personal choice, it was a dynastic obligation. Sophia felt the walls closing in around her carefully constructed narrative. That evening, she made a decision. She arranged to meet Ethan at a playground in Cambridge, away from prying eyes. Watching him race toward her, his face alight with joy, she felt the familiar surge of love and guilt that had become her constant companions. "Mommy, you came!" He launched himself into her arms. "Of course I did, baby." She held him tight, breathing in his familiar scent. "I missed you so much." They spent a precious hour together, Ethan chattering about school and friends while Sophia drank in every detail. As the sun began to set, she knelt before him, holding his small hands in hers. "Ethan, I need to tell you something very important." She chose her words carefully. "Remember how I told you we would have a special new life soon? Well, it's almost time, but first I need to tell my new friend about you." "The prince?" Ethan asked innocently. In the stories she had told him, William had become a fairy tale prince who would someday welcome them into his castle. "Yes, the prince." She smiled sadly. "He doesn't know about you yet, and he might be surprised at first. But once he meets you, he'll love you just as much as I do." "When?" Ethan's eyes shone with anticipation. "Very soon," she promised. "I just need a few more days to make everything perfect." What Sophia couldn't admit, not to Ethan, not even fully to herself, was that her decision wasn't born purely from maternal love. William had begun asking questions about her past, making casual comments about reconnecting with her estranged parents, suggesting a trip to Oregon to attempt reconciliation. The elaborate fiction she had created was beginning to unravel. and she knew her only hope lay in controlling the narrative of its collapse. That night, as they prepared for bed, Sophia watched William move around their bedroom with the easy confidence of a man whose life had unfolded exactly as planned. The contrast with her own chaotic history couldn't have been starker. "William," she began, her voice steadier than she felt, "there's something important I need to discuss with you. Tomorrow evening, could we have dinner alone? Just the two." "Fulvus?" He glanced up, surprised by her serious tone. "Of course, is everything all right?" "It will be," she assured him, reaching for his hand. "There's just something I should have told you a long time ago." The next day passed in a haze of anxiety. Sophia cancelled her usual appointments, spending hours rehearsing what she would say, how she would explain the deception that had defined their relationship. She arranged for a private dinner at home, dismissing the housekeeper early and preparing William's favorite meal herself. Everything was in place when the call came. William's assistant, apologetic but firm, explained that an emergency board meeting had been called. Her husband wouldn't be home until late, if at all. Frustrated but resolute, Sophia decided this delay was perhaps for the best. She would use the evening to finalize her plan, to ensure that when the truth emerged, it would be on her terms. She opened her laptop and began searching for private schools near their home, prestigious institutions where Ethan could eventually enroll, completing their transition into William's world. She didn't hear the apartment door open, didn't realize William had returned until his voice, cold and unfamiliar, cut through the silence. "What an interesting search history, Sophia." She whirled around, finding him standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "William, I thought you had a meeting." "It ended early." He stepped into the room, loosening his tie with deliberate movements. "I was hoping to surprise you, but it seems I'm the one who's been surprised." Sophia closed the laptop, but it was too late. "I can explain." "Can you?" His voice was dangerously soft. "Can you explain why my wife is researching elementary schools when we haven't even discussed having children yet? Or why these schools are all in Cambridge near an address I don't recognize? If you'd just let me—" "I had a visitor at my office today," he continued, ignoring her interruption. "An elderly woman named Rodriguez. She seemed quite concerned about a boy named Ethan." His eyes, usually warm with affection, had turned to ice. "She thought I should know about my stepson." The blood drained from Sophia's face. Mrs. Rodriguez, her former neighbor and occasional babysitter, had taken matters into her own hands. "William, please." 6 years old, she said. "A sweet boy who misses his mother terribly." William's voice cracked slightly. "A boy who's been hidden away while his mother plays the role of the perfect, virtuous wife." Sophia rose from her chair, reaching for him. "I was going to tell you everything tonight, I swear. That's why I wanted us to have dinner alone." He stepped back, avoiding her touch. "Were you also going to tell me about the lies, about the elaborate fiction you created, about how everything I thought I knew about you is false?" "Not everything," she insisted, tears forming in her eyes. "What I feel for you is real, William. I love you." "Do you?" His laugh was brittle. "Or do you love what I represent? The security, the status, the money?" "Both," she admitted, surprising herself with her honesty. "At first, maybe it was just about security. But I fell in love with you, William. That wasn't part of the plan." "The plan," he repeated the words with disgust. "And what exactly was the plan, Sophia? Or should I call you by another name? Is that real, at least?" "My name is real," she whispered. "And the plan, I just wanted a better life for my son, for us." William moved to the bar cart, pouring himself a generous measure of scotch. His hand trembled slightly, the only visible sign of the emotions raging beneath his controlled exterior. "Tell me everything," he commanded, his back to her. "Every lie, every deception. I want to know exactly what kind of woman I married." As the night deepened around them, Sophia finally unleashed the truth she had suppressed for so long, about Ethan's father, who had abandoned them before the boy was born. About the years of struggling alone, working multiple jobs to keep a roof over their heads. About her deliberate targeting of William. Not just any wealthy man, but one whose traditional values made him particularly vulnerable to her carefully constructed persona. With each revelation, William's expression grew harder, more distant. By the time she finished, tears streaming down her face, dawn was beginning to break over the Boston skyline. "So there it is," she concluded. "The whole truth. I'm not the woman you thought you married, but my love for you is real, William. And if you'll give me a chance, I can prove that to you." William set down his glass, his movements precise despite the alcohol he had consumed. When he finally turned to face her, his eyes held a coldness she had never seen before. "The woman I thought I married doesn't exist," he said quietly. "And I'm not sure I can love a stranger." The weeks following William's discovery were a study in silent devastation. He moved into the guest bedroom, communicating with Sophia only when absolutely necessary, his words clipped and formal. At social functions, they maintained a brittle facade of marital harmony, though gossip had already begun to circulate among Boston's elite that the Harrison marriage was in trouble. Sophia existed in a state of suspended animation, waiting for the final blow to fall. Each morning she expected to find divorce papers waiting for her. Each night she fell asleep to the sound of William working late in his home office, the physical and emotional distance between them stretching into an unbridgeable chasm. "He hasn't even asked to meet Ethan," she confided to Natalie during a tense lunch at the Boston Harbor Hotel. "It's like he's erasing not just me, but the very idea of my son from his life." Natalie's expression was sympathetic but frank. "You lied to him about something fundamental, Sophia. In William's world, appearances matter, but integrity matters more. His family has built their reputation on trust and traditional values." "I know what I did was wrong," Sophia admitted, twisting her wedding ring anxiously. "But doesn't everyone deserve a second chance?" "Maybe," Natalie sighed. "But William feels like a fool, the meticulous, brilliant financier, completely deceived by the woman he married. His pride is wounded as much as his heart." That evening, Sophia returned to the penthouse to find Catherine Harrison waiting in the living room, her elegant posture and icy demeanor reminiscent of her son's current attitude. "Catherine," Sophia faltered, setting down her shopping bags, "I wasn't expecting you." "Clearly," the older woman gestured to the chair opposite her. "Sit down, Sophia. It's time we had a frank discussion." Heart-hammering, Sophia obeyed. She had been dreading this confrontation since William discovered the truth. "William has told me everything," Catherine began, her voice cool but not unkind. "About your son, about the elaborate fiction you created to secure your place in our family." "I love your son," Sophia said quietly. "That part was never a lie." Catherine studied her with those piercing blue eyes, so like William's. "Perhaps, but love built on deception is like a house built on sand. The structure may be beautiful, but it cannot withstand the first storm." "What do you want from me, Catherine? I want to understand." The older woman leaned forward slightly. "Why? Not just why you lied, but why this particular lie? Why hide your child as though he were something shameful?" The question caught Sophia off guard. Of all the recriminations she had expected, this wasn't one of them. "Because I knew what William wanted," she answered after a moment. "A pure, untouched woman who embodied the traditional values he cherishes. A woman without complications or a past. I couldn't be that if he knew about Ethan from the beginning. So you thought it better to reveal this after marriage, when he would be legally bound to you?" Sophia flinched at the accuracy of the assessment. "It sounds calculating when you put it that way." "It was calculating." Catherine's tone remained even, but perhaps not entirely without reason. "Women have always had to be strategic about survival." She paused. "My husband's grandmother was an Irish immigrant who changed her name and hid her Catholicism to marry into Boston society. Different times, different secrets, but the same fundamental reality. Women adapt to survive in a world that offers them limited choices." Confusion flickered across Sophia's face. Was Catherine Harrison, the matriarch of Boston's old guard, actually expressing a degree of understanding? "Don't misunderstand me," Catherine continued, noting Sophia's expression. "I don't condone what you did, but I'm not here to judge you. I'm here because, despite everything, my son still loves you." Hope surged in Sophia's chest. "He told you that?" "He didn't have to." A hint of maternal exasperation colored Catherine's voice. "I've known William his entire life. If he truly wanted to end your marriage, he would have done so immediately. Cleanly, decisively. His hesitation speaks volumes. Then why won't he talk to me? Why won't he even consider meeting Ethan?" Catherine sighed, smoothing an invisible wrinkle from her skirt. "Because William has always lived in a world of absolutes. Right and wrong. Truth and lies. He doesn't know how to navigate this grey area you've created." She fixed Sophia with a penetrating stare. "But he needs to, and so do you." "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that if you want to save your marriage, you need to stop waiting for William to make the next move. You created this situation, Sophia. Now you must be the one to find a path forward, not through more manipulation or half-truths, but through genuine vulnerability." With those words, Catherine rose gracefully. "William will be attending the annual Harrison Financial Group charity gala tomorrow evening. As his wife, your presence is expected." She moved toward the door, then paused. "One more thing. I'd like to meet my step-grandson soon." After Catherine left, Sophia sat motionless, processing the unexpected conversation. For the first time since William's discovery, she felt a flicker of genuine hope. Not just for salvaging her marriage, but for creating something authentic from the ashes of her deception. The next morning, Sophia made 2 phone calls. The first was to Mrs. Winters, instructing her to bring Ethan to the penthouse that afternoon. The second was to William's assistant, confirming that he would indeed be attending the gala that evening. When Ethan arrived, his eyes widened at the opulent surroundings. "Is this the castle, Mommy? Is this where we're going to live?" Sophia knelt before him, smoothing his cowlick with trembling fingers. "This is it, baby. But before we can stay here forever, there's someone very important you need to meet." She spent the afternoon helping Ethan settle into the bedroom she had secretly prepared for him months ago, a room that had remained locked and unused during her marriage. Together they arranged his favorite books on the shelves, positioned his stuffed animals on the bed, and hung his artwork on the walls. With each item unpacked, the penthouse began to feel less like a showcase and more like a home. "When will the prince come?" Ethan asked as evening approached. "Soon," Sophia promised, her stomach knotting with anxiety. "Very soon." As the hour of the gala drew near, she dressed with special care, selecting a midnight blue gown reminiscent of the one she had worn the night she first attended an event as William's guest. Her makeup was subtle, her jewelry limited to her wedding ring. This night wasn't about dazzling society, it was about reaching the man she had hurt so deeply. "Mrs. Winters will stay with you until I come back," she explained to Ethan, kissing his forehead. "And when I do, I'll have a special surprise." The Fairmont Copley Plaza glittered with Boston's social elite when Sophia arrived. She spotted William immediately, surrounded by business associates near the bar. For a moment, she simply watched. Him. The controlled movements, the polite smile that didn't reach his eyes, the slight slump of his shoulders that only someone who knew him intimately would notice. As she approached, conversation stuttered to a halt. William turned, his expression flickering with surprise before settling into careful neutrality. "Sophia," he acknowledged, "I wasn't sure you'd come." "We need to talk," she said quietly. "Not here." After a moment's hesitation, he nodded. "The library is empty." They made their way to a small reading room adjacent to the ballroom, the sounds of the gala fading as William closed the heavy door behind them. In the relative silence, surrounded by leather-bound volumes and the lingering scent of pipe tobacco, they faced each other like strangers. "I've moved Ethan into the penthouse," Sophia began, deciding directness was her only option. "He's there now with Mrs. Winters." William's jaw tightened. "Without consulting me?" "Because we need to move forward, William, one way or another." She took a deep breath. "I've made arrangements for us both. If you decide you can't forgive me, I'll take Ethan and leave tomorrow. The prenuptial agreement you had me sign limits what I can claim, but it's enough for us to start over somewhere new. And if I don't want you to leave? The question was so soft, she almost missed it. Hope fluttered in her chest, but she forced herself to continue. Then we start again, with complete honesty this time, no more secrets, no more pretending to be someone I'm not. The woman I fell in love with doesn't exist, Sophia. Pain edged his words. How do I reconcile that? She does exist, Sophia insisted, stepping closer. Parts of her, anyway. The woman who loves literature and classical music. The woman who makes you laugh. The woman who challenges you to see beyond your privileged worldview. She reached for his hand, relief flooding through her when he didn't pull away. I built a fiction around those truths, William. I wrapped my authentic self in layers of lies because I thought that was the only way someone like you could love someone like me. Someone like you, he repeated. You mean a single mother from South Boston? A waitress with no college degree, no family, connections and a child born out of wedlock, she corrected. Everything your world taught you to avoid. You didn't give me the chance to prove I could be better than my upbringing. Anger flashed in his eyes. You decided for me, Sophia. You manipulated the situation to get the outcome you wanted. Yes, she admitted. I did. I was desperate, William. Desperate for security, for a better life for my son, for a chance at happiness. Tears welled in her eyes. I believed the ends justified the means. I was wrong. William moved away, pacing the small room with restless energy. Do you know what hurts the most? Not the lies about your background. I could understand those. Not even hiding Ethan, though that cut deep. He turned to face her. What hurts most is that you thought so little of me, of my capacity for understanding, that you believed I could only love some sanitized version of you. The observation struck Sophia with the force of revelation. In her determination to secure William's love, she had fundamentally underestimated him, and perhaps herself as well. You're right, she whispered. I never gave you or us the chance to be real. A heavy silence settled between them, broken only by the muffled sounds of the gala beyond the door. Finally, William spoke. I need to meet him, he said. Not because I've decided anything, but because he deserves better than to be a secret. Tonight? Sophia asked, hardly daring to hope. William glanced at his watch. Now we'll make our excuses and go. The drive back to the penthouse passed in tense silence. Sophia's mind raced with possibilities, with hopes and fears for what this meeting might mean. As they rode the elevator to the top floor, she turned to William. He thinks you're a prince, she admitted. In the stories I told him, I cast you as a fairy tale hero who would welcome us into your castle. A ghost of a smile touched William's lips. Quite the narrative. Mrs. Winters greeted them at the door, her expression carefully neutral as she took in William's formal attire and Sophia's evening gown. He's in the blue bedroom, the older woman informed them. I've just finished reading him a story, but he's still awake. William hung back as Sophia approached the bedroom door. Let me speak to him first, she suggested. Prepare him. Inside, Ethan sat up eagerly at the sight of his mother. Mommy, did you bring the prince? Sophia sat on the edge of the bed, taking his small hands in hers. I did, baby, but I need to tell you something important first. Do you remember how in our stories I called William a prince? Ethan nodded solemnly. Well, he's not actually a prince. He's a good man who lives in this beautiful home, and he's very important to me. She squeezed his hands gently. He wants to meet you, Ethan. Is that okay? The boy's eyes widened with excitement. Is he going to be my new daddy? The innocent question hung in the air, unanswerable in its simplicity. That's something we'll have to see about, Sophia replied carefully. But right now, he just wants to say hello. Can he come? In? At Ethan's eager nod, Sophia moved to the door, beckoning William inside. He entered cautiously, his expression softening as he took in the small boy with Sophia's auburn hair and a stranger's dark eyes. Hello, Ethan, he said, his voice gentler than Sophia had heard it in weeks. I'm William. My mummy told me about you, Ethan replied, studying William with unabashed curiosity. She said you live in a castle. William approached the bed, kneeling to bring himself to the boy's level. Well, it's not quite a castle, but it is a very nice home. Would you like to live here? Ethan glanced at his mother for confirmation, before nodding enthusiastically. Mommy said we would someday. Did she? William's eyes met Sophia's over the child's head. Something unreadable flickered in their blue depths. Well, your mother and I need to talk about that. But for now, I'm glad to finally meet you. Are you mad at my mommy? The directness of the question startled both adults. She's been sad. She cries when she thinks I'm sleeping. William hesitated, clearly weighing his words carefully. Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements, Ethan, but that doesn't mean they don't care about each other. My friend Jake's parents had disagreements, Ethan confided. Now Jake lives in 2 different houses. The implication wasn't lost on either adult. Sophia's heart clenched at the thought of her son already preparing himself for the possibility of another disruption in his young life. That must be hard for Jake, William said gently. But every family is different, Ethan, and whatever happens, your mother and I both want what's best for you. It was a careful answer, non-committal yet kind. Sophia felt a surge of gratitude for William's consideration of Ethan's feelings, even in the midst of his own turmoil. After a few more minutes of conversation, with Ethan proudly showing William his favorite toy dinosaurs, Sophia suggested it was time for bed. The boy protested briefly before settling under the covers. Will you be here when I wake up? He asked William, his voice small with uncertainty. William glanced at Sophia, then back to the child. Yes, he said finally. I'll be here. The Diao left the room together, Sophia gently closing the door behind them. In the hallway, the tension between them returned, though somewhat muted by the encounter they had just shared. He's a remarkable child, William said quietly. He is, Sophia agreed. Despite everything, I think I've done a good job with him. William moved to the living room, loosening his bow tie with a weary gesture. He deserves stability, Sophia. Whatever happens between us, he deserves that much. And what is going to happen between us? She asked the question that had haunted her for weeks. William sank onto the sofa, fatigue etched in every line of his face. I don't know. When I look at you, I still see the woman I fell in love with. But I also see the manipulation, the calculated decisions, the lies. He ran a hand through his hair. How do we move forward from that? Sophia sat beside him, careful to maintain a respectful distance. One day at a time, maybe, with complete honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. With the understanding that we're both flawed people who made mistakes, mine greater than yours, certainly, but neither of us perfect. And what if it doesn't work? What if the damage is too great? Then we'll know we tried, she answered, simply, and we'll find a way to co-parent Ethan that gives him the security he needs. William was silent for a long moment, staring out at the Boston skyline glittering beyond the windows. Finally, he turned to face her. I can't promise you anything, Sophia. I can't say I'll ever fully trust you again, or that we'll recapture what we had. But for Ethan's sake, and maybe for our own, I'm willing to try. Relief cascaded through her like a wave. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. It wasn't even a guarantee, but it was a beginning, a chance to build something real from the ruins of the fantasy she had created. That's all I'm asking for, she whispered. A chance. Later that night, William moved back into their bedroom, though he kept to his side of the bed, the physical distance between them mirroring the emotional journey still ahead. As she drifted toward sleep, Sophia felt him turn toward her in the darkness. Tell me something true, he said softly. Something you've never told me before, something real. She thought for a moment. I'm terrified of failing, she admitted finally. Not just at this, at us, but at everything. When you're raised with nothing, the fear of returning to nothing never really leaves you. I understand fear, he replied after a pause. I'm afraid of being seen as a fool, of making decisions based on emotion rather than logic, of letting down the generations that came before me. The simple exchange, honest, vulnerable, unadorned by artifice, felt more intimate than any they had shared before. In the quiet darkness, Sophia allowed herself to hope that perhaps, from the wreckage of her elaborate deception, they might eventually build something stronger, more enduring, and infinitely more real than the fairy tale she had once believed was her only chance at happiness. Morning brought neither resolution nor restoration, but something more valuable: possibility. As they sat together at breakfast, Ethan chattering excitedly about his new room, Sophia caught William watching them with an expression that, while guarded, held a hint of the warmth she had feared lost forever. "One day at a time," he murmured, meeting her gaze over their son's head. "One truth at a time," she agreed. It wasn't the ending she had planned when she first set her sights on William Harrison and his world of privilege. It wasn't the fairy tale she had spun for Ethan in their tiny South Boston apartment. It was messier, more complicated, and far less certain. But as she looked at the man across from her, a man willing to attempt the difficult work of forgiveness, and the child between them, bubbling with possibility, Sophia realized that perhaps for the first time in her life she was experiencing something authentic. Not a perfect happily ever after, but a real beginning. And in that reality, flawed and fragile though it might be, she found a deeper hope than any fairy tale could provide. Dear listeners, we hope that Sophia and William's journey through deception to truth has moved you. For more emotionally gripping stories that explore the complexities of love and forgiveness, we've created a special playlist of similarly captivating narratives. Find it by clicking the link to your left. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. Every day, we bring you unique stories that delve into life's most challenging moments and the redemption that can follow. Don't miss our upcoming content. We have many